Yes.
Awesome. Hi guys, I'm Steph. I am the COO and one of the 3 co-founders of Nero. And I'm going to talk to you guys today very briefly about trends in Gen AI, specifically for tooling and sales and marketing, tied to Nero, the company I'm building. Okay, so I think we can all agree that, probably everyone is here because AI has completely changed the way that we work. And it can really empower go-to-market teams. But in particular, people are looking for the tools that not only increase quality at the same speed or increase the speed at which you can do stuff at the same quality. It's kind of like base level. Everyone's looking for the tools that push this frontier out. And a lot of go-to-market teams actually have a mandate. This tree is like attacking me. They have a mandate to go and find these tools, test them out, and figure out what can they actually apply to their teams to make this work. Right. So you have your first set of tools. I think these are the tools we all know and love, but they're the ones that are just the generative and base generative. So we're talking about you can create a lot from a little here. You can take a single prompt and you can create a bunch of customized emails. But I think most people here will agree that while this was really awesome and shiny and new and super exciting, we were all getting our hands on this, the generative aspect alone actually can fall a little bit flat. The personalization isn't deep enough, you don't have enough customization, and really what this gave us is the power to span the world at scale, but didn't have a lot of meaning behind it. So then you have the next layer of generative AI tools, which are the ones that can actually synthesize and analyze. And they're the ones that, honestly, they do the exact opposite, right? So if you're thinking about building in generative AI, thinking about this aspect is really important as well. If you're thinking about adopting tools, making sure the tools you adopt can do this as well. This is taking a ton of information and then distilling it down into those really core insights that actually give you actionable things to go and do. And what's really powerful about this is the best tools are the ones that are kind of layering these together. So they have the synthesis AI component that then layers on top of the generative and makes the generative really, really powerful. And so you go from spamming the world at scale to understanding the world at scale and actually creating meaningful connections, creating meaningful output. And so Nero is taking kind of these 2 elements of generative AI and applying it to the world of content and knowledge, specifically for sales and marketing. So the problem that we're addressing, and not a lot of you have been on sales teams, so you're gonna have to take my word for this. Sellers are super busy and they just cannot retain all of the knowledge and content that they need to retain. You can have the best seller in the world who goes through the best training in the world, and literally a week later they're asking you questions like, wait, do we have a product sheet on this? Do we integrate with this system? Where do I find this customer story? And especially as your product becomes more technical, this can become more and more challenging because there's more stuff that they have to learn and remember. And if you're a SaaS product, you're iterating really fast, so this is changing all the time too. And so this actually presents a really great opportunity though for this idea of like synthesizing. Because Nero can take all of this content and knowledge along with the context that the seller is operating in, and then they can actually deliver, they can distill it down, and they can deliver exactly the right content and knowledge at exactly the right point when sellers need it. And then on top of that, you can have the generative aspect, right? Then you can also generate the email, but it's not just a blanket general email. We're actually using all of these insights from what is the context, what is the content, what is the knowledge, and bringing that email together. All right, so how does this actually work in real life? First and foremost, Nero is a AI curated library, and so everything lives in this one spot. So this is, one of the big problems is this knowledge is often not only not remembered, but it's all over the place, right? You have a blog, and you have a wiki, and you have knowledge is just everywhere. So Nero can literally take all this and put it in one spot. Take your glossy marketing stuff like case studies, one-pagers, but also all of the little snippets of language that sellers are using on a day-to-day basis. So their objection handling, their Q&A, just the language that they like to use to frame this case study, it all lives here. And we can auto-curate it, we can use a bunch of AI to tag it and organize it and make the world of the marketer, a lot better. But then also we sit within the seller's workflow. So what's exciting is this is where the synthesis comes in. We sit in their email, and we actually understand the context, and we can proactively recommend the right content and knowledge there. So we're, again, distilling down this huge corpus of knowledge into a small, actionable insights. And then we also sit in your meetings. So, we understand the context of the meeting, and then after the meeting, we can craft the follow-up email. The distinction here is people after meetings often come from back to back to back. They want the full email crafted, and then they can swap stuff out if they want. With an email, they actually want that choice right there. So we made that choice very intentionally. And then, so what's really important though, and kind of a huge differentiator of Nero, is this idea of sitting in the workflow. So again, here you have an example of Samantha Buyer. She's sending me in an email, and Nero will automatically identify objections, questions, topics, etc. And then we're going to make the recommendations for the best content and knowledge to address this. But we're not just making recommendations based off of relevancy. We're actually, again, taking this huge set of data. So what has worked before? What have you used before? What are your customers engaging with? What are people like Samantha Buyer engaging with? And using all of that to determine truly the best thing. So the recommendations will get better over time as we learn more about your company. And why, kind of parting thought here, but why does in the workflow actually matter? And I love this quote from Sequoia Capital's Generative AI Act 2. I highly recommend everyone read Act 1 and Act 2, where they said, the moats are the customers, not the data. And the reason this resonated is because in Act 1, they predicted that the moats were gonna be data moats. Like, that's what the tools that we're gonna win, we're gonna have the best data moats. Turned out, access to this data, unless you have something super highly specialized, is pretty easy to get. We're all getting access to Salesforce, we're all getting access to Gmail. Like, people aren't having the unique data sets that really set them apart. But what they are doing is if you build for the customer, and you build the right workflow, you build it in a way that they want to adopt it, then they're ending up winning. So this is kind of a basic product tenet that has applied to the world of AI, much more so than anyone predicted, but building in the workflow, and this is what Nero truly believed. No seller wants another destination that they have to go to. They don't want to have to change how they work, they just want it to be better. And so Nero built specifically to operate in the workflow so that they don't have to change how they work, and we can't just make them better. That's it. And then this is our team. So awesome.
What is like a workflow that you've seen that your users love?
There's two. So it's the two core tenant ones, but the Gmail one is really nice, and we're actually changing it from just an extension to be truly integrated into Gmail.
Yeah.
Because it's literally right there. So most sellers are operating out of their Gmail when they're communicating, and the first question we get is, well, do I have to go somewhere else?
Yeah.
And they love the fact that we're like, no, you don't have to search. The whole goal is to eliminate search.
Yeah.
We're gonna give you the right information right here. So they love that. And then two, people have really loved the meeting follow-up in particular, because that's probably one of the most painful things that sellers have to do. So, we're not actually trying to do that first touch of outbound, so we do really well together. But once you have that conversation started, remember, you get off of 5 back-to-back calls, and you're like, everyone sounded the same. What did we talk about? What did we go through? What questions were asked? What objections were brought up? And if they're using Gong, we work really well with Gong. Gong's great at drafting the follow-up, but they don't sit on the knowledge base. So they can't link the case studies, they can't pull in your tidbit of language. And so we can take it a step further and truly draft everything with all of the information you need there.
I think a huge thing with case studies or tutorials is vertical specific.
Yes,
or,
exactly.
Similar companies. So
yeah, and so we can understand what vertical are you operating in, what's worked before for this sort of vertical, what kind of persona is this, and we can bring all of that in to make sure the follow-up is tailored to both that and the conversation that you have.
So how do you make it easy to upload your whole knowledge base? Because every company has a different structure for the knowledge base.
So I will answer the today, and then I will answer where we are literally building and about to launch. So the today is we've got integration with Google Drive. We've made one click for your website. We can ingest all of your blog really easily. The beauty of the ingestion is all of the summarization, bullet points, tagging, all of that, all done automatically. I didn't focus very heavily on that because that's a little bit more of the basic generative AI, but the nice thing is like marketing teams right now spend a ton of time setting up traditional content knowledge bases, doing those summaries, doing that organization, and that's a super easy thing to solve out the gates. Where we are going with this is we realized that sellers have all of the content that they're using on a regular basis in their Gmail, which we integrate with. So we're doing two things. When you sign up, you go back 90 days. Any piece of content that you have sent to more than one customer, so that way it's not specialized to just one specific customer, we will automatically ingest, and then we will show you, and we'll say, hey, do you want to keep this in the library? We'll also do it with snippets, so we actually can be like, this is the pieces of language that you're using over and over again. Would you like us to save this? So it actually takes that onboarding and makes it even faster. And what's really cool about that is then we can run analytics on it immediately and show marketing, like, here's the content that's being used regularly by your sales team for the last 90 days. Here's the stuff that no one's touching. And it gives them the insights that they need out the gates, and then marketing can supplement that.
Do you connect to the LMS as well, like the seismic, HighSpot?
So we're competing with that. So we're very, it's a good question though, because we were debating if we wanted to just sit on top of that and provide in the workflow and more of the intelligence than they are. Problem is like, they're obviously going to see this as a direct competitor, and we believe that we can do the onboarding way easier than them. And so right now we're not trying to replace, eventually we will. Right now we're just going for, the nice thing is what we have built is available for much smaller teams. Seismic, HighSpot, all of them, they can be great tools. They're really, really expensive. They've explicitly built it for enterprise, and so unless you're willing to drop like $100K, you're probably a little bit out of their price point, whereas like we can address a lot of the smaller companies, and then we're already in the door, and so as they grow, we can grow with them. Okay.
Well, I have two questions. So the first one is, which languages do you?
Great question. So we are primarily English, but we are working on localization. And so, the biggest challenge with localization, we can do all the summarization, we can do all that. We have no idea if we did a good job, because we don't speak that language. So that's a big challenge, but we are right now actively working on supporting multiple languages. The way that it would work is you would have your core English library, you could toggle to another language library. Both the web app would then translate into that language, along with the summaries and everything. It's just, a little challenging.
Okay, thank you. And second question is, so now you will focus on sales and marketing. Right?
Yeah.
So is there any other like function that you want to explore next?
Yeah, it's a great question. So other functions we want to explore. Unintentionally, we've seen a ton of interest on the CS side, customer success. Still go to market, still customer facing, but the beauty is like you load in all your Q&A and all your help articles and everything, and it's like right there, already in the workflow. So natural extension. But really, it can work for anyone that has these documents and questions that they need to answer. Us as founders have found like, hey, next time we go to fundraise, we're probably going to use this. There's potential for RFPs and having all your RFP information in there. So like, you can really expand it to anywhere that you have knowledge and you want that knowledge surfaced at the right moment in time. We're focusing primarily first on sales marketing.
My question kind of goes more towards like the security and compliance aspect of it. As a lot of like startups and clients that I've interacted with are very, I guess, strict with their IP. What type of like compliance and security do you offer to, maybe clients that are a bit more on the weary side of things?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're currently in the process of SOC 2 certified, so I think we're about a month out from being SOC 2 certified. And we are also kicking off GDPR just because a lot of people across, Europe selling sales team. And then the other thing is like just being really clear in terms of our data policy. Like we're adjusting your data to make these recommendations better for you. And so just being really clear about that. Like, yes, we're gonna have access to this. We will clear any of the data as soon as we no longer need it to make the recommendations appropriate. But for now that seems to have been fine. We're working with some enterprise customers and they've been on board. So okay, oh yeah, last question. Anyone else, any other questions?